Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, US presidential elections 2024 are now at the corner. Both Republican and the Democratic candidates are eager to win the race, intends to get others out. It's all happening in any democratic process. Another factor in the US election is the swing states or the sun states. There is a competition who is going to break the red wall or the blue wall. There is another competition to win the voters' sympathies, particularly the US citizens of the Jewish, Muslim, African and Ukrainian origin, where they will go. But that all will be decided on the 5th of November 2024. But the fact is that Americans are going to choose their next 47th president for the White House. Republicans and Democrats are neck to neck in this competition. Both are eager to have their presidential and the vice presidential candidates in the White House. But on the other hand, the pro-Israeli lobbies has some other designs. They are working at the different trajectories. They want pro-Israeli, Republican and the Democrats, yes, both of them. All those candidates who are the pro-Israeli must have to be win the election. Why this is happening? Because history suggests that every presidential candidate, if he wins and he is in the White House, always give a lot of success and a lot of access to the illegitimate state of Israel. They always support this illegitimate state even more than the past. There will be no sea change in any circumstances, particularly in Middle East. So it means that the Palestinians' fate and their future is at stake. There would be no change in their sufferings. The illegitimate states, the illegitimate state of Israel's influence and its expansionist designs will go on because of the US support and obviously subsequently the support of the Western countries. How it would be and why? These are the very important questions. We'll try to get answers of these questions from our panelists. We have in our studio SARDAR JAHANZAIB GHALIB. He is the expert on US Mediterranean politics. Most welcome to you, JAHANZAIB. Thank you very much for your presence here. And with him, Syed BASIM Raza. He is the international political analyst. Most welcome to you, Basim. Thank you very much for your time. And online will be joined us Shahid MASROOR KIANI. He is the former ambassador and seasoned diplomat having ample experience at the diplomatic and international politics horizon. So, my first question to you, Basim, that was the Christian Zionism the driving force behind the British support for Jewish Zionism, leading to the Balfour Declaration and the establishment of the illegitimate state of Israel? And does this same ideology fuel the US unwavering support for Israel and making it virtually unstoppable and to have expansionism?
Okay, so historically, when we talk about Zionism, the ideology of Zionism, we always start with the basic proponents of Zionism, which were in the early 18th century and then 19th and then 20th century. We talk about the Moses Hayes, we talk about Theodore Herzl's, the political Zionism. But the reality actually is that long before the Jewish Zionists, they actually had the idea of a nation state in their mind. Christian evangelicals, they were promoting this idea of Zionism. They had this thought of restorationism. Like restorationism actually devotes to the scripture, the biblical scripture that actually explains that Jews are the natives of the Palestinian land in Middle East, and they have to go back over there. They have a right over there. And when they go back over there, after that, there will be the second coming of the Christ. So this idea was promoted by the British. Now, when we talk about the formation of Israel, a Zionist state, the illegitimate Zionist state, we have to see that not only this restorationism was the context behind that, but there was an imperialist idea too. It was an amalgam of both of them, backed with the restorationist ideologies and the imperial ideologies, that when the sick man of the Europe, it fell. The British, they wanted a peace in that whole region. They wanted a peace, a vassal state that would protect their strategic interest. And that actually drives today's Western policies too. It still can be seen somewhat in a different manner, maybe, we can argue on that, but the basis actually remains the same. Whether it's the United States foreign policy, whether it's about Germany, whatever the context they give you, the real idea behind it is basically an amalgam of British imperialism and the evangelical restorationism. And that actually gave the Jews the idea that you have this, this homeland that you need to return to. So basically, I think that keeping in mind this historical context, it actually explains the contemporary thinking of the foreign policy elite of the West.
Means nothing has changed. It's like the old wine in a new bottle, but
yes,
that is still there.
Exactly.
When we are talking about JAHANZAIB, the US vetoed 3 of the resolutions in the United Nations Security Council. Washington's actions meant kind of a double game, like to have the ceasefire in the Middle East and not to have that, and supplied weapons just to encourage Israeli genocidal war to continue. What do you think?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Your question demands 3 perspectives basically. First, US resolution, how it has actually condemned that, again vetoed that. Second one, that how the game changer perspective has been added in the following perspective. And again, the third one, how US has been supporting Israel for weaponry support. So as far as the veto is concerned, US basically vetoed 3 resolutions, which were actually directed toward maintaining the peace and stability for the Israel-Palestinian conflict. US vetoed and then gave again the perception that it was actually an imbalanced resolution, which were majorly focused towards the Israel defense. And again, US being an ally of Israel wants Israel to be secure on that side. Again, in the perspective of the game changer, it has been seen in the US policy that it actually contradicts on the both sides. US being an ambassador of liberal international order actually divert from its policies whenever actions are majorly linked. Its actions are majorly towards the realist side, and again the policies that it gave somehow relate with the liberal perspective. Again, that actually created a dichotomy with the foundations of liberal international order. It deals with the 2 perspectives, human rights values and again democracy. Second one is free trade. So when comes democracy, this particular point would be not in the US favor as far as the policies are concerned.
So most of the times when you are talking about dichotomy, and BASIM was very right in raising the Christian evangelical issue. So do you not think that US, the politics is extremely pro-religious, as most of the people think that it's more liberal, but especially when it comes to the evangelical politics, and as there are more than 62 million evangelicals in the United States out of 268 million American population, they religiously believe that Israel's birth is according to their faith, and it's their duty to protect it at any cost. So how do you analyze this?
So as far as the evangelical factor is concerned, they are actually of the view that Israel being a capital in the very perspective of the land is on the prophecy which have actually derived from the Middle Eastern side. Again, the prophecy, the biblical prophecy, which was in the favor of Jewish perspective, mainly with the Zionist ideology. So these evangelicals are those that extend their congressional behavior in the Congress as well. They some extent support the Republican side as well. We can see in the 2016 elections, they were mainly on the side of Republicans and mainly supported then President Donald Trump. Again, a survey of 2017 by a Lifeway Research found that 80% of evangelicals believe Israel modern statehood aligned in the biblical prophecy. So this biblical prophecy was again certified that around 10 million people of the pro-Israeli lobby is around this perspective of influence of the religion in US.
But because the objective is same, it is not about the Republicans or the Democrats. The objective is to have the pro-Israeli Israeli Israeli state must have to be protected in the Middle East. So that's why they are aligned when it comes to Congress or in Senate, American Senate. So BASIM, Christians United for Israel, CUFI, is an extremely influential evangelical entity in the United States with 10 million members, including politicians and others, with the core theme that the Jewish Christians jointly form a city of Jerusalem, whether or where they will live forever, means crisis in the Middle East is not isolated. It's somewhere have the links. Not just rests upon the illegitimate state of Israel, has other reasons as well. So how do you see, because the founder and the chairman of this CUFI, the pastor John Hagee, he is very much vocal on these things, and he has sermons and he has the addresses to the many millions of gatherings really online and all that. So how do you see that?
Okay, aside from this CUFI and this evangelical ideals, there were basically two major reasons behind US unconditional support to Israel. In the very beginning, when in 1948 Israel was formed, Truman was the first one to recognize, first world leader to recognize the state of Israel. Later, if we notice, from 1948 up till 1960, the aid or the support that was provided by United States to Israel was only in terms of economy. There were no military support at all. Later in 1960s, it was a mix of military aid and economy. The idea basically behind it was that Middle East is a very pivotal region, a very important region for US in terms of strategy. And there were many fractions in Syria, such as the Ba'ath Party, such as the Egyptian leader Jamal Abdel Nasser.
Obviously.
They were of socialist mindset. So US wanted some state to counter that. US wanted some strategic element inside Middle East to counter that. And that is particularly why after Yom Kippur War, they started supporting Israel militarily.
Earlier, they have worked on the Arabic states in the region, surrounding Israel. And now they are more concerned and more focused on the illegitimate state of Israel rather than the Arab countries.
Exactly. And now, after the tide change and the pivotal moment in the history, it comes in 1978 when Camp David Accord happened. Before that, US was supporting Israel in a manner that it is a democracy, it is a strategic ally.
So-called
we have to support that. But after Camp David Accord, the support became unequivocal, and the support Israel became the national security issue of United States. If we keep on noticing the trend from there, we can see that even in 1990s, Israel became a huge economy. A huge economy which had the money and everything to fund AIPAC, CUFI, and all of these organizations inside United States. Despite that fact, United States kept on supporting Israel militarily. Matter of fact, Obama administration promised $38 billion of defense support to Israel. So the idea actually is that previously United States was supporting it as a strategic ally. There were strategic ambitions behind it. But contemporarily, organizations such as CUFI, such as other organizations, AIPAC and all of that, they have changed the common man's discourse in United States. They have invested extensively on discourse management.
Definitely. We are coming on that discourse as well. Your point well taken. Ambassador Shahid Saab, most welcome to you to Foresight for your time as well. How do you see these pro-Israeli lobbies like Christians United for Israel, CUFI, which are so powerful that they rejected US President Biden's demand from the Israeli de facto Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to have an immediate ceasefire to the war in Gaza, and released a condemnation statement on April 4th, 2024, and supported the Israel's war on Gaza, and time and again stressed that the president must have to obey what the Israeli state is doing and what they are intend to do in future. So how do you see how much influence they have right now on a US president regarding the Middle Eastern crisis, and particularly the illegitimate state of Israel?
First of all, we need to be clear. I agree with my colleagues, what they've been talking about, evangelical support and APEC and others. Meaning, right from the beginning, the creation of the State of Israel till today, no US government has ever gone against what the Israeli policies have been. Can you just imagine that Mr. Blinken has been coming up and meaning at least 6 to 7 or 8 times he has been to these capitals
13 times, sir.
and comes
13
back, go to
times.
Israel and comes back.
Definitely.
13 times. So do you think that he has to personally go and tell them, please stop? Do you think he tells them to stop? I doubt it very much. This has been evangelical or no evangelical, that has been the policy, that is a social support, that is a cultural support which the US government uses, or in the Congress, there are members of parliament who are, members of Congress who are supporting. This has been the US policy right from the creation. They have created a state here in the heart of the Middle East to protect their interests. They know this whole Gulf countries, meaning one by one they became independent. They were under the British colonial rule, one way, the Dominion, one or the other, full of oil and gas. This is extremely important for United States to protect. So Israel is there to protect their interests. Good or bad, whatever they have been doing, can you ever imagine the massacre which has taken place in Gaza? They continued killing, which continues even now today in Lebanon. And do you think the United States cannot stop it? Meaning the first thing the United States would have done is to bring about a ceasefire, and ceasefire can only be brought when the Americans stop giving them military assistance. That is very important. And I tell you why. If you look at what has happened between Iran and Israel, the United States' latest weapons have been used to stop the Iranian missile attacks. Because, and if not for that, for the United States' literally physical presence in Israel, Israel would have got some sort of a beating from the Iranian military attack, whatever reason it was. So this is, and when you talk about illegitimate government, I'd like to correct you, sir. Look at the number of Gulf countries and Muslim countries who recognize Israel. So being legitimate or not is now it is in the back burner. Nobody talks about it. What they talk about is the continued Israeli aggression in the Middle East, the killing of children, the ignoring the UN resolutions, even stopping the UN Secretary General from coming to Israel. This is the amount of what you call arrogance which the Israelis have shown.
So Mr. Ambassador, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right at your approach. It is absolutely correct you are talking about. But when evangelicals are 85% of the Republican Party and have huge influence over the future Republican US president, that's the reason why the Donald Trump seems their favorite, as former president has accepted Jerusalem as the capital of the Israel, a de facto capital of the Israel, and shifted the US embassy there. That was the most controversial decision ever had by the president of the United States, but was successful in doing that because of the Christians and Zionist religious groups supporting them, while the Kamala Harris was always under attack within the party, even because of showing little sympathy towards the Palestinians. So how do you see right now the battle between the two presidential candidates in United States when they have lots of support of the pro-Israeli lobbyists?
I doubt, if you look at the policies of the both candidates, Vice President, she represents the US administration. Biden, she's still in power. And Trump policies on Israel and her policies, hardly any difference. I have yet to see her condemning Israel for the aggression in Gaza. I have yet to see her saying that please stop this war. They don't. There's just cosmetic change between her and them. Can you imagine, has Kamala Harris said that I'll take back reverse the decision to take back the US embassy from Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv? No, that has not happened. These are just cosmetic. no US government, I tell you, wants to change this policy. I can tell you very frankly. The policy of supporting Israel is sacrosanct. When you talk about Trump, Trump's own son-in-law is Jewish, and he was the instrument. He was the one who convinced the Gulf countries to have diplomatic relations with Israel. He was the one who brought about the change of the capital. So this is something personal, but Kamala Harris, meaning she has yet to give a statement stating that the war should end. And little sympathy here and there is very cosmetic, I tell you. You have to.
Very cosmetic, no doubt, no doubt. You are absolutely right on that. Basim, what about the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee? You were earlier mentioning AIPAC. 5 million pro-Israeli Americans, national movement, which has the presence in every congressional district and working to strengthen bipartisan support for the US-Israel relationship. Supported several pro-Israeli Democratic and the Republican candidates in 2022 with more than $17 million in direct support to them, and now again in 2024, and the volume of that support, the financial support, is much higher than the 2020 or 2022. So how do you see that?
I totally agree. AIPAC actually began with this building coalition with the political party members, the political elite of the United States. It actually started with building coalition. Out of those $17 million that were provided to the political persons in the United States, according to Open Secrets, 4.5 million was paid only to Joe Biden. 2.5 million was paid to Hillary Clinton in the state of New York. Now, the idea actually is that when you pay this huge amount of money, you expect something in return. So previously they were building coalitions, but now they're giving directives to all of these politicians. And honestly speaking, I don't see that any politician can resist to that. Any politician can go against that policy or say anything otherwise.
So you are absolutely right on that approach, but when we are talking about JAHANZAIB, do you not think that AIPAC's super AIPAC strategy that is now surfaced is to get pro-Israel candidates win and make way to the Congress is a technical rigging, which most of the experts within the United States, they are saying that now it's called the technical rigging, protected by the US law, which is supporting pro-Israel politicians to win election through abundant finances, the campaigns, the social media influence, rallies, media management, and lots of other tools. So how do you see, because US is always very much vocal when it comes to the third world democracy, but what about the US democracy itself, when it is protected by law and lots of pro-Israel lobbies are working under that law and they are supporting in a vigorous way to just win a candidate from either the Republican or the Democrats?
Okay. So you talked about AIPAC. Firstly, AIPAC is actually doesn't take part in any kind of political campaign directly. However, as you mentioned, that they do have a financial bulk backside.
They support the candidate.
Exactly. That's why the candidate, they actually support those candidates which lies in the form of pro-Israeli campaigns.
Definitely.
So again, as far as the technical rigging is concerned, this was a Supreme Court decision in 2010 between the Citizen United and Federal Election Commission, which states that any party campaign, any party holder have the back from the unions or corporations in the form of financial terms, but it hits the point when the concerns are in the form of democratic ways or in the ethical ways. So again, AIPAC has a lot of hold in the politics when it comes to the election campaigns, and again the super PAC formulation, which is actually in the form of major bulk financial support. So it actually lies with the support to the major candidates. Again, the social media campaigns, direct ads campaigns to the pro-Israeli narrative persons holds by the AIPAC and Super PAC. So that's where the question lies. But again, as far as the legal binding is concerned, it is not a technical rigging point. But again, when it comes to the ethical and the democratic ways, it actually where the point stands.
But when we are talking about ethics and all other things, that who will decide that what are the ethics and what are the unethical? So the BASIM, as you have rightly pointed out earlier, that whether it's technical rigging or not, but the thing is that someone is supporting some candidate. Yeah. And that is basically on an objective that they must have to be pro-Israel. Yeah. And again, they are loudly saying that they are working to defeat all those who are anti-Israel. So this is loud and clear. How you analyze the APEC statement, which is there at the website, and it's not a secret really, in which they claim that during last elections, they are claiming before elections even, the 98% of their pro-Israel candidates won with $40 million spent on them, while 24 anti-US anti-Israel relations candidates were defeated actually. APEC also distributed $70.4 million among the pro-Israeli lobbyists to campaign in favor of illegitimate state of Israel, as they have a slogan, we stand with those who stand with Israel.
Okay, so 98% win. There is no, unoriginal sort of a thing in there. There is nothing that astonishes me regarding that. The whole political scenario of United States, it actually persuades every single political entity to work in accordance with that Israel lobby influence. Now, for instance, there is a person who has to go for a candidacy. He has this huge fear of going against the Israel lobby, particularly because of 2 points. Number one, the money. John Meshamer, he recently had an interview almost 2 weeks ago, and it was removed from YouTube, of course. According to him, when a candidate is paid almost $4.5 million, the other person would never go against that person.
Obviously.
And it is a very clear,
point, basically.
It is a very clear sort of a scenario.
So what sort of a democracy is it?
Exactly.
And what sort of election that is going on?
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. And second is the public opinion. Fox News, CNN, CNBC, all of these news channels, all of the basic entities which control the discourses, they are in the hands of APAC. Now, for example, if a candidate, he or she wants to go against the Israel policy, they will be bashed. They will be unable to, promote their political ideals in the United States. So the whole situation actually, in the light of APAC and their statement, it's very clear, it's very right.
Taking from your point, JAHANZAIB, many experts believe that this sponsorship of the politicians actually weakening democracy and making sure that every politician must work for these pro-Israeli entities, the lobbyist firms, and never do it for the common American citizen. So that actually drifting the very mean of the democracy for the US citizens and the ballot as well. So what you think about that, how it is going to shape the American democracy when there is a huge sponsorship is there?
Well, there is a political philosopher, Robert Dahl. He states that it is the right of a democracy that every person enjoys equal policies and equal rights. So as far as the APAC is concerned, it helps the campaign in the form of financial help. But as far as the APAC perspective is concerned, in this particular manner, it helps candidates financially, and again these finances doesn't show that the native American people are the main American people which are having their say. It doesn't reflect in the form of those APAC policies, because APAC policies are majorly focused toward the pro-Israeli side, and the pro-Israeli side is again the candidate that won is from the APAC side. And again, their political campaigns are behind that, their financial support is behind that. So what you see in this particular behavior is that that doesn't reflect the major American public opinion. It actually reflects the opinion from the pro-Israeli perspective. So that's the side where APAC lies more in the perspective.
Your point well taken. Mr. Ambassador, do you remember that when around 12 US senators written a comprehensive letter to the International Criminal Court ICC prosecutor Karim Khan and threatened that if he will issue arrest warrants of the illegitimate state of Israel's de facto prime minister or other leaders, then ICC will face harsh sanctions, and threatened target Israel and we will target you, and also said that we will move to end the American support for the International Criminal Court and that you will be warned. So how do you see such kind of support available in both houses, not only in Congress but also in Senate for the Israel? And it seems that Rather than United States working for their own citizens, they are more working for the illegitimate state of Israel?
First of all, let me just share with you. Since the war in Gaza, I'm coming to a second later on, but since the war in Gaza, the discussion has taken place in the United Nations Security Council and the UN General Assembly and others. And the United States has been sticking its neck out for Israel. The United States does not allow any resolution to be passed in the Security Council which condemns Israeli aggression. So that is what is this encouragement for Israel to carry on with the killing, carry on with the threats to this XYZ organizations, to the United Nations, to the ICC, because Israel will protect them. So when this type of is given for such criminal acts, so these are small things to the ICC, man, that we will stop your finances. Naturally, United States not only is the biggest contributor to these multilateral forums, but also controlled international finances, international financial institutions otherwise. It has the membership and the influence. So therefore, these organizations are very, very scared, let me be honest, very careful with their statements. Look what has happened to the United Nations Secretary General when he spoke. He has been told not even to visit Israel. So these are things I'm not surprised. As they say, spare the rod, spoil the child. You have not condemned. The United States has never condemned what it is. Just giving such statements. Okay, stop the war, send that. No clear instruction, no clear what you call statements has come out from the United States to stop the aggression. As I said to you, you yourself agreed that 13 times Mr. Blinken has gone. Do you think he needs to go 13 times or 15 times or 20 times to tell them, stop the war? One telephone call or from the White House can stop this war, provided they say that, okay, military assistance will be stopped. But that doesn't happen, and it's never going to happen.
Definitely. You are absolutely right. Mr. Ambassador, how do you analyze the Brown University's Watson Institute report, which tells us that since October 7th, 2023, Washington had spent at least $22.76 billion in Middle East, out of which $17.9 billion directly to the illegitimate state of Israel's invasion on Gaza, and $4.86 billion spent on operations against Houthis in Yemen and elsewhere, including the Syrian operations and all that. Where while a Pew Institute tells us that a cumulative US military aid to Israel remained the highest, it is about $310 billion since 1946. So how do you see overall scenario and the picture which is right now in the world? It seems that the Middle East situation is going to be very grim in future.
The United States Constitution gives immense power to the U.S. president in the domain of foreign policy. Yes, it is answerable to the U.S. Congress, especially the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but it is literally scot-free to go as far as the domain of foreign policy is concerned. That's why you see that they don't listen to any criticism. They continue to help and assist Israel in the foreign policy domain. And look at the amount of money which you are saying, which is given to Israel and to stop the Houthis. This is something very dichotomous. And let me tell you how the United States, the US president or the US Congress how do they justify this thing? That the commonality of democracy, the so-called commonality of democracy in Israel and the US democracy. So we have commonalities, and that's why we have to assist Israel. The other thing, the guilt feeling of the Western countries, especially United States, Christians, evangelical, who did not come to the aid of the Jews in the Second World War. That is something that, as you see in the US, the Israeli slogan is never again. Is never again would we be subjected to such criminal acts. Naturally, no human being, no civilized nation has ever condoned what the Jews went through the Second World War.
Definitely.
But that doesn't mean...
You are absolutely right, because no civilized nation can do that. No doubt about that. Yeah. BASIM, very quickly and very brief, because we have run short of time. Famous journalist Bob Woodward, latest book, War, described insights that the Biden was frustrated due to the illegitimate state of Israel's de facto prime minister's lies, ignorance, blatant actions on ceasefire, Rafah invasion, Gaza siege, airstrikes on Beirut, and civilian casualties. It created distrust and the tension between the relationship. So Biden was against attacking Lebanon, any offensive against Iran, favored Gaza ceasefire, have heated arguments over the humanitarian aid blockade, but despite that couldn't do anything and were steadfast in supporting the illegitimate state.
Very simple and very clear. There are two words that actually tell us the reason behind all of this. Israel lobby in the foreign policy elite. Now, this pattern has been observed before too. Obama in 2016, he refused to bomb Syria. In 2017, he said, and I quote, that he was defeated by blob, a term which is basically used for the foreign policy establishment. Similar thing happened to Trump when he wanted to end all the interventionist adventures of United States abroad. He was unable to do so because he was persuaded by that Washington playbook. So problem actually lies is that two factors, they contribute the most. Number one, public opinion, as we have talked before. 70% of Americans, they believe that Israel has the right to defend itself against anything. And they support that. The second point is the foreign policy elite. The foreign policy elite from the neocons up till now is able to persuade a president to act in a certain sort of a manner.
Certain sort of a manner.
Exactly.
That is very important. JAHANZAIB, what's your thoughts on, very brief, on the common American participation in the illegitimate state of Israel's genocidal war since October 7, 2023? 35 American states and municipalities had invested $1.7 billion in Israeli bonds. Palm Beach County invested $2.5 million and a cumulative investment was $700 million across the world. Means United States and the counties and the municipalities are partner in the Israeli success.
So again, this question addresses my last answer. Again, in the perspective of the public narrative, I still believe that the public are majorly in opposition of the current scenario between Israel-Palestinian conflict. Again, it depends that where those incentives, those finances and those money goes. It again goes in the pockets of the main holders which are actually serving the APAC policies. So as far as the public is concerned, I don't think that public narrative is against the total perspective of Israel. Again,
okay, your point well taken. Mr. Ambassador, very brief, one last question. When 35 out of 50 states in the United States supporting illegitimate state of Israel, Pew Research Center tells us that 64% of the Americans like Israeli people, but Trump's 70% of the voters have open support for Israel, then 54% of the Harris voters thinks like that, 82% of the US congressmen or the Congress and 76% of the Senate members are pro-Israel, while all pro-Israeli lobbies firmly believe strengthening the US-Israeli relationship. Muslims are also significant part of the US politics. So would there be any change after the US elections, or everything would be unchanged?
I doubt very much there'll be any change. What the thing which I think the possibility is a ceasefire in which the Israelis, security is protected from attacks from Lebanon and from Iran. That is the only thing that once this is done, a ceasefire will be brought about. But the killing, with whatever's happened in Gaza, the killing, the destruction which has happened, I doubt very much there'll be any reconstruction to take place. The damage has been done. So we can just hope that the war ends.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, Ambassador MASROOR KIANI. Thank you very much for your time online. Thank you very much, BASIM Raza, for your time. Thank you very much, Sardar JAHANZAIB, for your presence here. Viewers, as you have listened to our panelists, US seems to be the champion of democracy, but unfortunately democracy seems to be at stake, as most of the experts believe that US, rather than working for their citizens, for the upholding the human rights across the world, and particularly the rights of those innocent Palestinians who are got killed by the illegitimate state of Israel. But unfortunately, US is more working for the pro-Israeli policies and support of Israel. So even after the elections, as our experts suggested, that there would be no change. But even if there would be a ceasefire in Middle East, at any front, that would be in advantage of the illegitimate state of Israel. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.